Well, hello everyone. Good morning from me in Australia. I'll just do a quick sound check to see if you can hear and see me okay while I adjust my screen. I'm just trying to get a larger screen here for myself. That's better. Okay. Are we connected? Can you hear and see me? Great. It's a bit of a delay getting messages through, but that's good. Thanks, everyone. Very good. So, I hope everyone is doing well. Of course, we experience all sorts of things in this conscious human existence. No one excluded. I myself feel like I've had quite a busy time these last few months. And it's been a busy year, actually, relatively speaking. And any kind of engagement can bring up all sorts of perceptions, feelings, experiences. This is just the human condition. So, learning how to reflect wisely on our experience is so important. To understand the Dharma is to learn how to live life wisely. And this is what we call establishing right view, or the view that helps us release any unnecessary suffering, or not to get caught in unnecessary suffering, whatever our experience may be. And our experience in this human realm can be anything along the spectrum of happiness and suffering. And it's changing all the time. So these are the main points of the Dharma to remember, that all such sensory experience, whether it's sublime or disastrous, so-called, what we label it, is changing, is conditioned, it's impermanent, and those experiences being transient are not who and what we are. What's important to notice is our reaction to them in the moment, because our response, our reaction to them is where things can get worse or get better, depending on our view, depending on our ability to see clearly the transient nature, the not self nature, and the tendency of the mind to grasp and fix, and particularly to want to push away, run away from painful experience. This is where we can embed ourselves in more pain, more suffering. The shutting down, the running away, the contracting against the unwanted, the painful, the unpleasant. Just to notice when this happens, to bring awareness, mindfulness to that, and explore the possibility of relaxing, opening, accepting in the moment, breathing with whatever that experience is, and noticing what happens. This is where we learn the path. So that's a spontaneous little Dhamma talk at the beginning, while people gather in this meditation space. So as usual, we'll do a guided meditation for about 30 minutes and then 30 to 40, and then we'll open up the chat for some questions. And what we've been doing the last couple of months, and it's been working well, is, we'll close the chat box as we go into the meditation to help people just focus on my guidance. At the end, we'll open up the chat box for about 10 minutes for people's questions to come in. Then we'll close it again. And this helps myself and Jayasara to navigate the questions much more easily and respond in a more streamlined way. And if we get to the end of that first batch of questions, before our session's finished, we'll open up again for more questions to come in, and we'll see how we go with that. Okay, so let's get started with the guided meditation. So some of you are very familiar with meditation, and some who are tuning in may be new to this way of practice, new to the Dharma path. But let's just try to keep the meditation very simple. We're not trying to create any particular state. We're not trying to get rid of any current experience or state. We're simply learning how to bring awareness to the present moment's experience, and learning how to establish awareness in the present with our changing stream of experience. And in particular, we're doing it in a way that is letting our field of attention become more simplified. So usually in activity, we can be thinking of a whole range of things, have a lot going on, working with an agenda to get things done. Our mind's attention can become fragmented, either overly fragmented or sometimes overly driven in one particular stream. So meditation is about, we're learning about this mind, about the movement of attention, and we're particularly starting to see that our attention, where it goes, what we get caught in, the movement of desire and aversion in the mind, how habitual this activity is. That there is that which can become aware of that, which knows that as it is. And it's that very awareness which is ever present, which can see clearly the mind. The mind is a very broad term here. Whatever happens in our mental, emotional, and even physical experience, because the physical experience is perceived by mind. Without mind, we can't perceive anything on the physical level. So we also can refer to that as part of the mind's activity, perceiving the physical form and physical experience. So this is all already happening all the time. The intent of this kind of meditation is to become more aware of that, or to be aware of that. Now, initially we find this tricky because our attention is used to chasing streams of thought and getting pulled into various ways of thinking, perceiving, activity of mind. So we want to notice that and relax attention in the present. Allow attention to settle in the present, and to help the mind relax and settle in that way, we can bring awareness or mindfulness to this present moment physical experience of body sensation and breath, the breath moving in and out of the body. Because this is happening every moment, there's this coming and going of breath, and we know that through the sensations in the body of respiration. This experience provides a touchstone and anchor for us to settle attention. So let's just try this for a few minutes. You can either close your eyes or just let your gaze soften and lower, so it's not seeking out visual objects. And just become aware of the most obvious physical sensations you feel right now. You might feel the weight of the body, the result of this law of gravity pushing this weight of matter that is the body against the earth, the chair, the cushion. So we actually have this feeling, what we call weight or heaviness. This can change too. Sometimes we can feel more light, sometimes more heavy. Sometimes the body feels quite dense and compacted. Sometimes it feels more expansive and light. But just notice how it is for you right now in this moment. And open up to that experience. See if you can just accept it as it is. Breathe with it as it is. Whether you experience it as pleasant or unpleasant, whether the mind labels it as something you like or dislike, it just is as it is in the moment, ever changing or subtly changing moment to moment. Sometimes you'll become aware of places in the body that feel more painful or tight or tense. See if you can just accept those sensations as they are, as they appear, and breathe with them. Let them be. So, as we're settling both the mind and the body, as we're giving attention to physical experience, we can become aware of mental activity, even as we're giving attention to the body, because we're bringing mindfulness into the present. We become aware of a range of experience, mental, physical, and emotional. So we might notice a stream of habitual thinking. Just notice that as a kind of current of energy. It's a momentum. So let the energy just stream in the background as you give more attention to the bodily experience, the physicality, sensations of breath, sensations of sitting, sensations of relaxing. And then start to direct your attention a little more purposefully, not pushing or over-efforting, just as a direction of intention and attention to notice more the particulars of the breath sensations. Notice the sensations of the breath coming in through the nostrils, expanding the lungs and the chest, the diaphragm. And the particular sensations of the out-breath. Simply noticing just as they are. See if you can stay with that process for a few minutes now. And every time you become aware that attention is traveling down a rabbit hole of thought, not connected with the breath, just recognize that and remember the breath. And then that thought stream will disappear and the breath sensations will become more obvious. Just let this be your practice for a few minutes. So you might notice that as we do this, the body and the mind can or does relax more and more. Sometimes the tension in the body just lets go. The breath deepens and lengthens. And a feeling of calm or tranquility emerges. Or you might even notice that the mind is still racing with thoughts. If you feel tension in the body, just notice whether or not you're habitually resisting something, or if you're over-efforting, if you're trying to focus your attention and push something else away. So it takes a while to learn how to just let the mind be open, awareness be open, to not resist whatever your experience is, and yet to gently direct attention to be aware of the breath, the body as it appears in the moment. And in the same space, we can recognize when thoughts come and go, when sounds arise and cease. And we learn not to chase them or fix onto them, but rather just recognize their brief appearance and disappearance within the flow of experience. So as we notice this subtle feeling sensation of calm, it's a relative value. It can be a little bit calm or a lot calm. It's relative to our usual experience. But as that emerges or comes into awareness, it's like we recognize the field of awareness is emptying out a little bit. It's no longer chock full of so many different sense impressions fighting for attention, vying for attention. But the field is emptying out somewhat. It's like there's more space to breathe, to be. So you might get more sensation or feeling sense of more floating or sense of spaciousness. But if we stay also connected to the subtle feeling of the breath, this keeps us grounded. and connected in the present. If we start to appreciate that sense of spaciousness more and more, as a kind of a field, the calm can grow even deeper. So, whatever is happening for you, whatever is happening in the mind, this way of practice, we continually orient to present moment experience, to awareness which is ever present, to not clinging to anything that appears, whether pleasant or unpleasant, to relaxing and letting be. Even if we perceive some kind of struggle within this experience, it's just that feeling in the moment. It's as if You move through layers of experience, different experiences revealing themselves. Some appear as very transient, and at deeper levels you may come across experiences that feel so much like me, mine, who I am. And yet if you just rest awareness with that and release, or don't get caught in fixing or grasping, these deeply familiar experiences can also start to dissipate, open up. So all sorts of experiences may emerge within our meditation practice, within our life in general. But in this period of meditation, where we're just sitting still or being still for a little while, letting the body and mind calm a little bit, we can start to see more clearly the habitual tendencies of the movement of attention and intention, the emotional reactions of the mind to different sense experience. And to gently notice the stream of sense experience, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. And we're orienting to just this present moment awareness that knows it all, sees it all. This is where wisdom develops, from this quality of awareness itself. that knows and sees. It knows and sees things just as they are. We start to learn how this mind works, what its habits are. We start to see where tension and stress appears and arises, and how that is so, how that comes to be. And we start to see how that is also relaxed and let go of, not followed, not concretized. We start to learn how to rest more and more into this quality of awareness itself, an ever-present reality, an ever-present field. Letting our attention relax into that more and more. So gradually we're going to emerge from this meditation, which doesn't mean we're going to change anything. We're just going to allow our attention to come more into this relational field of this shared cyberspace connection. And in a minute we'll open up the chat box for some Q&A. But just keep this awareness that you've begun to recognize as you open your eyes and come into the space of where you're sitting more fully. The awareness doesn't change at all. The things you perceive may be different, but they're just sensory perceptions, sights, sounds, smells, tastes. In one way, doesn't change. It is beyond change. So in your own time, come now into this space of relational engagement, even though we're going to engage just through the chat box. Okay, I'll follow up some questions. I think Marie has asked, can you please speak some more on right view? So I mentioned right view as we were entering, or before we went into the meditation guidance, but basically everything I was Everything I said as part of that meditation guidance was about establishing right view. So right view is just the term the Buddha used for the first factor of the Eightfold Noble Path. When the Buddha was attempting, or did articulate his experience of awakening and tried to formulate a way to communicate the process of awakening, or a path to awakening. He formulated what we call the Eightfold Noble Path, or what he called the Eightfold Noble Path. So it's a path, in Pali it's marga. It can also be referred to as a way, like we conceive of a path as starting here and ending up elsewhere as a destination. But actually, that's perhaps not. The way is really a better articulation, even though it does arrive at a deeper understanding and awakening, and it appears to be a different experience than where you started. Really, all of these eight folds of this way or path of practice are deeply connected, and they work together. And yet they can be articulated independently. So right view is the basis of the path, and all those other factors, the 7 other factors, build or depend on that right view. So we have right view, right intention, right I think we go right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right mindfulness, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration, or right samadhi. This is the English translation. Right just means not opposed to wrong, but that it moves in the direction of awakening, or moves in the direction of wisdom, of release, of freedom from suffering, rather than its opposite, which is moving in the direction of more suffering, or more entrapment, or more delusion. So right as opposed to wrong is very black and white, and it has a stick carrot, kind of punishment reward connotation to it. But really, Samma is the Pali that gets translated as right. It actually has connotations of harmony and of moving together. So these are the qualities that together bring about freedom from suffering. This is the way we can think about Samma, the right factors of this way of non-suffering, or way of the path leading to the end of suffering, or the way of non-suffering. Right view is its root. So in the doctrinally, right view is talked about as seeing or understanding the Four Noble Truths, which are, we see what this experience of suffering is, of stress, of tension. That's the first Noble Truth. The second is we understand how it comes to be. This is what the meditation is about. We start to see how stress is created, tension in the mind, heart, body. We see how it comes to be. And we also, that's the second Noble Truth. And then the third Noble Truth is we see how it's released, how it's let go of, how it relaxes. And we understand, the fourth Noble Truth is understanding that whole process. Recognizing suffering, seeing, understanding how it comes to be, seeing, understanding how it's released, then understanding the way to the complete ending of suffering is cultivating this letting go, relaxing, not clinging in the sphere of this seeing, knowing, understanding the way things work, particularly in regards to the arising of suffering and the cessation of suffering. So this right view is something that becomes more and more refined as this wisdom mind of awareness sees clearly and directly for itself through your own direct experience how suffering is comes to be and how it relaxes, how it's let go of, how it disappears and disperses. Okay, Reverend Dillis is saying meditation is divine psychotherapy. It continues to seem to work better than talking psychotherapy because it can be hard to come up with words that describe my experience. Yes, that's true. That's true. The interesting thing about talking psychotherapy is that it can be helpful with many aspects of our human experience because it's a human relational experience. And if you have a good trusting relationship with a skilled psychotherapist, then that allows a certain process of trust and the ability to, let's say, to open up to another being, to deepen. In the psychotherapy training I did, the Buddhist psychotherapy training I did many years ago, one of the tenets was that our human wounding happens. Human wounding happens in relationship, and therefore the healing of that needs to happen in relationship, which is kind of a way of saying to reestablish trust at some level there. But that isn't to say this healing doesn't happen in meditation, or that our meditation is not relational either, even within our own meditation. Because really the core of healing capacity is within awareness itself, and the essence of truth within that. Sometimes it's just in a relational setting, a trusted relational setting, certain things can be healed in that way. Concerning difficult, conflictive thoughts and emotions, I'm confused as whether to turn towards and sit with them, or strive to dissolve them, move towards emptiness. So, Andy, I wouldn't strive to do anything with them. And I know it can be confusing using different words with regards to these experiences. So I'll just try to explain briefly. Within your present moment experience, if a difficult or a conflicted thought, or if a particular thought or emotion arises that in that moment feels conflicted or difficult, when we say just be with that, what we're meaning is relax the tendency to want to push it away, to get rid of it, to fix it, to identify with it, all of which actually compacts the experience. So when we say just be with that, it's like don't resist. Notice it. It's like this. It feels like this. It feels tight in the chest, for example. Maybe it feels tight in the chest. Maybe I feel the blood pressure rising. Maybe I feel this strong resistance that you can almost hear it saying, I don't want this. I don't want this. No. Resistance says no. And notice my hand. it tries to push away, block, no. So we start to notice that language of the heart and encourage ourselves, just relax. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, even though it might feel tight, restricted, and we feel this feeling of resistance. It's not wanting. It's like, okay, I feel that. I feel this not wanting. Can I breathe with it just as it is? That's the main instruction. Can I breathe with this experience just as it is? The resistance, the not wanting, the hatred of it, the pain of it. Can I breathe with it as an inquiry? Maybe a little bit at first. Can we take another breath with it? So in this way, we're not pushing the emotion away. We're not trying to dissolve it. We're not trying to notice emptiness. Get out of the way so I can see the emptiness. None of that. It's just, this is what this feels like in the moment. I can feel it as I'm breathing. I may not like it. I may not want it. Can I breathe with it? It's just as it is. It's making an appearance. Don't push it away. Don't hold on to it. And as you learn to be with it, because, don't want to feel it, so it feels like this, so you can feel the push-pull, tension, conflict, okay? It feels like this. Just be with that. It's okay to feel that. And then you'll notice all by itself, without you wanting or trying, it just starts to change. Maybe it dissipates a little bit and then comes back really strong. You just got to notice this, go with this process yourself. And I try to guide people through that with that series of meditations on our website called Embodying Awareness and Kindness. A series of 7, 10 to 15-minute meditations which help you establish this way of being with things as they are, particularly some difficult, conflicted emotions. And this, just as I was describing, is helping one become established in that right view, that way of being. So I hope that helps clarify that confusion there. It takes time to learn because our habitual patterns of resisting and preferencing are very strong. And it seems nonsensical to our rational mind and our defended heart to open and not resist painful feelings, because we've done that for a long time, you see. So we start to see that pattern of blocking. No, don't want. But can I breathe with it? Because this is appearing in the moment. Mindfulness of what's present. So we're not indulging it. We're not wanting to dive into it and just, even though we might fall into it and become distressed for a time or have lots of tears. If that's what happens, that's what's happening. But more and more we're establishing awareness of what's happening. And that in itself is right view, and it allows things to open out and change, and for the mind just to see what's going on. What is the difference between the Arahant ideal and Bodhisattva ideal? I just want to get out. Yes, we all experience at times, I just want to get off the wheel. Let me out of here. That in itself can be an experience of aversion. So I've had enough. I'm out of here. Just let me off. And you're like, But if we look into that, where is that arising from? How does that feel in the moment? That very thought. As we breathe with it and are aware of that, the thoughts come and go. I want out of here. A thought charged with an emotion, but as we watch it, it appears and disappears. What is here? What remains? So this right view, this pointing to awareness, the ever-present awareness, is the portal. There's nowhere else to go. Ever-present awareness is the portal. The portal to what? Ever-present awareness. The difference is ever-present awareness with ripened wisdom is release, is awakening, is the Arahat Bodhisattva ideal, is the bodhicitta, is enlightenment. But you don't go anywhere to find it because it's already ever present. We don't realize it. Our mind is confused and so seeks in all sorts of other mental constructions to try and find release without finding it. Because it's looking out, it's looking in the wrong direction. The portal is always ever-present awareness. So between the Arahat ideal and the Bodhisattva ideal, they're just that really, ideals, ideas which have developed conceptually in different traditions to be something more than what they really are. You know, these heavily loaded concepts as they develop through the centuries and through generations, through different philosophical streams, can become heavily loaded conceptual concepts. They're not liberation. What the Bodhisattva ideal and Arahat ideal is pointing to is the release, the ever-present reality, the truth, the awakening here and now, and awareness itself. I'll leave it at that for now. Okay, quite a few questions have come in, so I'm backtracking. What exactly does karma mean in Buddhism? How is it applicable in meditation practice? It's not applicable in meditation practice. Karma literally means action. So action comes about through intention. We intend to act by body, speech, or mind. And the idea is that karma actually means action. Its counterpart, vipaka, means result. But they usually go together because action and result is what the Buddha points to as the causal law that is playing out in the world, in reality, which we can come to recognize in our practice. We can see the result, cause and effect, action and result. So just in learning how to meditate and recognize the factors of the mind, intention and attention, you notice attention is habituated, say, to following a particular kind of thought. Say you've got one particular obsessive thought going on. If you start to notice that, become aware of it, you start to see it has certain results. Much like if you draw a line with your finger in the sand, and if it rains, the water starts traveling down through that groove. And the more the water travels down, the deeper the groove. So the water is like a metaphor for the energy of mind or attention traveling down a particular groove direction. the more it goes there, the more energy goes in a particular direction, the deeper the groove or the habit becomes. So it'll keep flowing there. This is karma, cause and effect, action, result. So we can notice that in our practice. We all have habit patterns. Why are they habit patterns? Why do they seem to have a certain momentum and energy to them? Because every time we engage that activity, we're fueling it. We're putting more logs on the fire so it keeps going. And sometimes those habit patterns become so deep, it feels like it's really hard to change. So this is, in effect, one example of what we mean by karma. But it is possible to change. You draw a groove, another groove in another part of the sand, and the water starts channeling that way. Yeah. So we create a different habit pattern, the energy to flow. So we're changing the karma, and in the way of practice, we're encouraged to recognize that the unwholesome or unhelpful habits, which create suffering and create more suffering, we're encouraged to learn to direct intention and attention in a way that is wholesome, that brings benefit for oneself and others. That benefit is about relieving suffering, lessening suffering for self and others. So any way of action of body, speech, and mind that supports and contributes to the lessening of suffering, or at least not the creation of suffering for oneself and others, is helpful and wholesome. And if that activity, intention and attention, is actually cultivating the Eightfold Path, this is considered extremely helpful and wholesome for oneself and others, because it's leading to the end of suffering. It's leading to full awakening, the way of non-suffering, or the reality of non-suffering as well. Okay. So when we say, how is it applicable in meditation, or you ask that question, it is just that we're learning. Intention is actually the core of karma. So any accidental action, if you accidentally step on an insect, this isn't karma creating, because there's no intention there. So the factor that creates karma, a causal result, for better or for worse, for suffering or non-suffering, is rooted in intention. Whether that intention is purely habitual and you're aware of it or not, or it's something that we purposefully cultivate. So that's why right intention comes after right view in the Noble Eightfold Path. When we have the right view, automatically we understand how to establish or create or give rise to intention that is wholesome. And that in the Eightfold Path is articulated as any intention or thought that is not involved with thoughts of harm or harming, thoughts of cruelty, or thoughts of just getting things for myself, getting pleasure for myself, sense pleasure, me, mine. So thoughts and intentions that let go of harm, let go of cruelty, let go of selfishly seeking sense pleasures, the letting go of that is right intention, following upon right view. Or in a positive sense, the cultivation of kindness, compassion, generosity, renunciation. These are the wholesome intentions or thoughts within the Eightfold Noble Path. How can we deal with impatience when it arises? once its importance has become apparent, whether during meditation or in common life? Well, the way we deal with anything that arises is to notice it's there, to notice it has arisen. So impatience is the same. To notice, there's this feeling of impatience has arisen. So we become aware of it, become mindful of it. As soon as that happens, we've actually created this protective boundary. So this energy of impatience, which without mindfulness might spill over into frustration and aversion and saying things that we later regret or that are hurtful for others, or doing things in a hasty, rushed way where we sometimes hurt ourselves or make mistakes because we're not really present. We're just driven by this habitual energy of impatience or frustration. So first to recognize, this is the feeling of impatience. And for many of us, we have particular things that can arise more strongly than others. Some may have a feeling of aversion arising more habitually. Some may have a feeling of covetousness or jealousy arising. Some people may be more generally have a strong habit or characteristic of impatience. Just notice what it is for you. Sometimes we inherit, or often we do, this is a conditioned process. We can inherit such tendencies from our family of origin, or those we grow up with and are influenced by in various ways. Or sometimes they're more innate tendencies, but they can, innate by, I mean, maybe we can't seem to notice a correlation with our early life. But they're still conditioned and inherited to a large degree. But when we're aware of that, we've got this protection of mindfulness. It doesn't spill over as you become aware of it, just within your meditation or in your everyday life. You breathe with that. There's this. How does that feel? Usually impatience feels quite unpleasant, if not painful. It's pressured, contracted. I know I experience impatience sometimes and frustration sometimes, especially when I'm trying to do something practical and it's not working, or, whatever. So you just notice, this is the feeling. It's stress, right? We notice this is suffering. It's stressful. Am I in a reaction to it? Is there aversion coming in on top of impatience? I need to get rid of impatience. This isn't good. The push-pull of aversion, impatience. Or can we just be with that in the moment, recognize it, breathe with it, and allow it to dissipate? Re-establish awareness in the present, recognize identifying with this feeling, grasping it, just embeds it. That's the second noble truth. So what do? Breathe, let it dissipate. Don't resist, but let it dissipate. Take a moment to feel your body and re-establish. That's the third noble truth. Impatience is dissipating. In fact, it's gone. Now I feel better, actually. Right? That's what we notice. We notice that whole process. Wisdom recognizes, yes, this is the path, this is the way to release suffering, to release the habitual patterns of stress. We need that awareness. We need to notice how it is first. Could you speak to satisfaction, contentment, relation to the Dharma, the way of the way and purpose. I'm not exactly sure, okay, I can speak about satisfaction or contentment. As I was just discussing in that framework of the Four Noble Truths, the third noble truth, the letting go of suffering, one experiences the release of stress, dissatisfaction, and the emergence of what we call maybe contentment. This is the Dharma. And in fact, those who've realized the Dharma can describe their experience as just contentment with the way things are. There's no longer a push-pull going on, habitual push-pull or striving or wanting. It's just completely content with the present, what's appearing, and being with that with wisdom and compassion, responding with wisdom and compassion. This is the way. Purpose, that can be conceived in different ways. The innate purpose of wisdom is simply being, but its response is wisdom and compassion in any given moment. Okay, so people are expressing some thanks for the Q&A. You're welcome. Looking at past personal photos can make me sad, not all the time, but how could one feel about photos and memories? Just know that these are memories. It's not the photos that are making you sad. The photos are just a play of light on a piece of paper. It's the memory is the perception and the way you think about myself, maybe myself in the past, or seeing someone else in the photo that might not be there in your life anymore. It's all of the thoughts and memories that maybe give rise to sadness because you're perceiving things in a particular way and then conceiving, which means you're thinking about it more and more in a particular way. And often these concepts are habitual thoughts of me and mine, and we can reinforce them the more we get swept up in them without awareness. So using the very same, I'm feeling sad. Why? Because something that's arisen in the visual field has triggered a memory or a thought, and then you feel sad about that. Maybe the memory is a conditioned memory. Maybe there's memory of pain in the past. So that feeling comes up, and now there is pain in the present. And then another thought, perhaps resisting this pain in the present, not wanting this pain in the present, or not wanting this concept of me, I, that is now present. So we have to see that not wanting. We see the sadness, we see memory, we see feeling, we see thought. But these are all discrete things that are arising in the present. They're not inherent in that photo at all. It's all the play of the mind. So what do you do with that? Firstly, they've arisen, so don't resist. But know them as just impermanent moments of perception, thought, memory, and let them go. They're just that. The past is just a memory arising in the present. And a memory as a perception arising in the present is very fleeting. If you let it be, it arises and ceases. But if you don't see it as that, the mind that is unaware, unknowing, will pick it up. This is what we call unwise reflection. We'll pick it up and say, this is me and mine. And I don't like this particular version of me and mine. And so we put aversion upon delusion. If we simply see that memory is a thought moment, a perception arising and ceasing in the present, that's not delusion. That's seeing that thought just as it is. So you're undermining delusion by seeing that reality. And by putting it down, not owning it, not saying this is me and mine and reinforcing that particular view, you're just seeing that thought. That thought creates suffering. Can I breathe with it and let it go? Let it dissipate. It's just a thought in the moment, and then it disappears. So that acceptance, seeing it as it is in the moment, is the kindness undermines any aversion. Seeing as it is wisdom, undermining any delusion. And then you experience the result of that, which is peace in the present. Now, if this is a particularly strong habit, i.e. if you have a particularly strong sense of perceiving me and mine in that way, it'll re-arise. But your practice then is to just see it. There's that embedded negative sense of self again. Not so embedded, it disappears. Unless you keep it there and tell yourself. Notice how we have to tell ourselves, this is me, this is mine, 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 me. We have to keep owning it for it to stay. If we see it with awareness, it disappears. Now we have to notice that for it to start to undermine that tendency. If it's suffering arises through this, clinging, hanging on. Suffering is released through this, letting go, letting be. This is this is me, I don't like it. Whose is it? When there's no grasping, there's no concretizing of a permanent me, mine in some perceptual thought construction. It's a habitual flow of a stream where we learn to let go of that unnecessary grasping and suffering. If we don't, we just suffer more unnecessarily. Okay, so what do you think about Eckhart Tolle? I think he's a very nice chap and very wise chap. So Jennifer Barnes is addressing Jayasara, but I'm Jitindriya. So even though this is Jayasara's channel, Jayasara will be on in the next 2 or 3 weeks. But I will attempt to answer your question, Jennifer. Isn't detachment from thoughts avoidance? It can be if you find the mind is saying, I don't want this. I'm going to be detached from this. Notice the push. When it's detachment is an English translation of the word viveka, which can be translated in various ways. Detachment is a bit cold in the English language. So detachment, in another way, it means unentangled. So when we're not avoiding, we can, just as I've been speaking, something arises, sadness arises. I want to be detached from sadness. I don't want this, I want to be detached. That is actually attachment. The pushing, the not wanting, is also considered tanha or craving because it stays through this energetic relationship. The true non-attachment or unentanglement comes about through wisdom. We see things just as they are. This is a feeling of sadness arising. This is a feeling of sadness ceasing. Because that's its true nature. There's no permanent sadness. But if you grab sadness and say, this is me and mine, we keep feeding it. That's what we learn, this energy of the mind. It creates stuff. We create suffering. Not a we, but the habitual mind flowing in ignorance. This is its tendency. Grasping equals suffering. Seeing with wisdom is, it's like this, and then it arising, ceasing. Where is it? Where is this me and mine that is sad? No longer there. Relief. Now, okay. During meditation, what is the difference between thinking and distraction? No difference. Thinking and distraction. Well, thinking is thinking. You can notice a thought in the same fashion. Notice a thought arise and cease. That's not distraction. When you find your attention down a rabbit hole, traveling with thought upon thought after thought, you've been distracted from present moment awareness. So if we notice a thought arising and ceasing, or notice a stream of thinking without losing touch with present moment awareness, that's not distraction. If we've lost touch with present moment awareness and we're building castles in the air with our thought constructs, that's distraction. Great. We've arrived at the end of this stream of questions. So I'm thinking we're going to finish up for today. It's been an hour and a half. So there's a lot that I've said there in response to that Q&A. And it may be worth people going through that meditation again at some time and listening to the Q&A, because it's all about establishing right view. And once you've established right view, once there is right view, the path unfolds very naturally. There's no having to build one step upon the other. It all arises from that. So just because there's a delay in the chat, I have noticed a few more questions coming in. So I'll just finish those off for today, and then we can finish up. So just briefly, how do you heal a past life memories? In exactly the same way as I spoke to that earlier question about memories arising, that someone was asking about when looking at photos, old photos have sadness coming up. So healing past life memories, I presume you mean memories that are painful, disturbing, conflicting. We just notice when they're there, when they arise. Don't push them away. Learn how to breathe with them. Notice they're just memory in the present, a perception in the present. Can I breathe with this just as it is? It may give rise to other thoughts, feelings, emotions. Try to maintain awareness without identifying, grasping, and indulging. This is a fine balance, and we learn through, bouncing around with it. But if you listen to those guided meditations that I spoke of earlier on our website called Embodying Awareness and Kindness, this will give you direct guidance to work with such things. So thank you for joining us today. I hope that was helpful. And Jaya Sara will lead the next live stream. Because we've been quite busy lately, we haven't been sure whether we can do 2 or 3 weeks. So we'll set that date within the next week on our website. It will either be 2 or 3 weeks from now. Okay, so Jayasar will also post that date on the YouTube channel. So some comments are coming in now. So thank you, everyone. I'm glad it was helpful. All blessings to you. Stay safe, stay well. If things don't feel safe and well, be aware of it. You can cultivate a sense of wishing for beings to be safe and well, and suddenly you find yourself there as well. Okay? And remember, you can always tune in if you're needing extra support. Not only all of the uploads Jayasara makes, the wisdom of the masters, are always so helpful, but these live guided meditations and Q&A, they're all archived there on the YouTube channel. I think they're just in a folder called archive or live meditations. So even though you think, oh, I've listened to these before, I've listened to that before, you'd be surprised. It's like listening to the masters. You go back after a little time, you listen, you think, wow, did I ever hear that before? You hear different things again and again, and they can just be exactly what you need to hear. So I encourage you to do that. Thank you, everyone. Take good care and see you again before too long. All blessings. Bye for now.